I never imagined being rejected at my own wedding, until a kind stranger changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment the doors swung open, revealing my hopes and dreams, my heart raced with anticipation. But then came the words that shattered my world. I can't marry you. Silence enveloped the church, heavy and suffocating, pierced only by the sounds of gasps. My fingers trembled as I clutched my bouquet, the petals wilting under the crushing weight of betrayal. Ryan, the man I had pictured my future with, stood there, eyes downcast, his voice faint. Love? It felt like a distant memory, a flickering flame snuffed out by a brutal wind. How could he do this to me? I searched the sea of familiar faces for comfort, but the pity in their eyes only dug the knife deeper. My mother's face paled, her breath hitching, whispering my name as though it could fix everything. Friends exchanged shocked glances, disbelief etched across their faces. I turned desperate for solace when a shiver ran down my spine. Who was that? There in the back a stranger lingered. His presence was an inexplicable pull, dark and mysterious. Everyone else faded away. The echoes of my broken wedding day grew softer as I felt drawn to him. The air thickened with expectation and wonder. With each heartbeat I sensed something was shifting. My heart sank as I watched Ryan turn on his heel, walking away like he was leaving my life forever. Wait! I wanted to scream. My voice felt trapped, caught in my throat. The ground beneath me felt unstable, shaking with fresh agony. I had no idea how to piece together the fragments of my shattered dreams. The stranger took a step forward, cool and confident, his eyes locked onto mine. They sparkled with an intensity that made my breath hitch, like an electric charge darting through the air. Something about him whispered possibilities I had never considered. What secrets did he hold? Then, in the midst of chaos, a single question emerged in my mind like a spark in the darkness. Would he help me reclaim the pieces of my heart? Or was he just another illusion in a world gone mad? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was still thick with disbelief, thick enough to choke on as I stood there, holding onto my bouquet like it was a lifeline. The sounds of hushed whispers buzzed around me, and laughter from outside reminded me of the joyous event that would never be. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss I was unwilling yet forced to face. As I instinctively took a step back, my heel caught in the edge of my gown. I stumbled, a rush of embarrassment flooding through me as I felt the weight of everyone's eyes. But just as I thought the ground would swallow me whole, a steady hand reached out. Here, let me help you. It was the stranger had moved closer. The moment our eyes met, something flickered in the depths of my hollow chest. His gaze was warm, and there was an undeniable gentleness about him as he knelt down, carefully freeing the fabric. The world swirled around us, and for that fleeting instant, it felt as if we were the only two people in existence. That I blinked, and as I returned to reality, the stranger stood, brushing off his hands as though he had just finished a mundane chore rather than pulled me back from a tumble into despair. I'm sorry to intrude, he said, his voice smooth and calming. I couldn't just stand there. Thank you, I managed, my voice a mere whisper, laced with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. The silence around us felt oppressive, yet there was something refreshing about this unexpected kindness. What's your name? He asked, his eyes studying mine with a depth that made me feel seen for the first time since the wedding disaster. Emma, I replied, surprised at the steadiness that surprised even me. And you? Call me Jack, he said with a slight nod, like he was offering me a slice of normalcy in a world turned upside down. You shouldn't have to go through this alone. His words washed over me, bringing a sense of comfort I hadn't expected. I watched as he leaned against the back of a pew, so effortlessly at ease in the midst of this chaos. You said you didn't want to be alone. Do you mean? I looked around the room, suddenly aware of how very alone I felt. Yes, he replied, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. I meant that. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who isn't part of it. I felt an unexpected warmth flicker within me, similar to the light of hope. What do you suggest? My voice trembled as I considered this stranger offering me sanctuary that I don't know yet. He smiled, and something deep inside me believed that maybe starting anew wasn't such a distant dream. Perhaps this was a step into a different future, one I could shape myself. Before I could comprehend what I was feeling or what he was offering, the church doors creaked open, and a flurry of guests began pouring in, the jubilant sounds of the wedding party suddenly stinging my consciousness. I could see their faces bright with confusion, pity, and whispers of concern. I recoiled, anxiety surging as I turned back to Jack. Come, he said, taking a step toward the side corridor where the garish light of the day broke through, casting a stark contrast to the shadows gathering in my heart. We stepped away from the chaos, and as we did, the door slammed shut behind us, muting the world. The sounds faded, and suddenly the two of us stood in the quiet dimness of the corridor. Breaths mingling in the thin air. Do you believe in second chances, Emma? Jack asked, his expression softened with sincere curiosity. Maybe, I responded, uncertain of anything beyond the moment. But I don't have a clear path ahead of me. Everything is broken. Sometimes from the greatest wreckage we build the strongest foundations. His words lingered like an unyielding promise. But right then, a loud crash echoed through the church as the large double doors swung open once again, revealing Ryan, his expression filled with desperate determination. Emma! He shouted, and my heart plummeted as the shock of his presence hit me like a tidal wave. In that moment I was faced with decisions I never wanted to make and a heartbreak I thought had been put to rest. The warmth of possibility Jack offered dissipated into the cold grasp of the past clawing its way back. Ryan's eyes bore into mine, and I was frozen in place, teetering between what I thought I wanted and the reality that unfolded before me. And there was Jack standing next to me like an unfaltering anchor amidst the storm of my life, promising respite and yet caught in the chaos I hadn't asked for. Would I choose the familiar pain? Or would I dare to step forward into the unknown? My heart raced as the question hung heavily in the air, unanswered and ominous. The tension in the air felt electric, thick enough to cut through. Ryan's voice, raw and desperate, echoed in my mind, drowning out the faint sound of Jack's steady breathing beside me. I could see the intensity of his gaze, unwavering, a stark contrast to Ryan's frantic disarray. Emma, we need to talk, Ryan pleaded, taking a tentative step forward, visibly shaken. There was a vulnerability in his eyes I had rarely seen, yet it was tinged with an urgency that pulled me back into the memories we shared, the laughter, the love, the plans we once held as sacred. But those memories, now marred by betrayal, transformed into chains I was loath to accept. I don't think there's anything left to say, Ryan, I whispered, barely allowing myself to meet his gaze. A part of me longed for the comfort of familiarity, for the tendrils of connection we had once woven into our lives. But underneath that comfort was a gnawing resentment, a battle of conflicting emotions as rage and sorrow clawed for dominance within me. Jack shifted beside me, his presence steady as he stood silently, a stark reminder of the path I could choose instead. I dared a glance at him. His brow furrowed, a hint of concern dancing in the depths of his eyes, and yet an unwavering strength anchored his stance. In that brief moment I sensed the question flickering between us: what was next? Just give me a chance to explain. Ryan's voice cracked, breaking the fragile stillness of the corridor. You don't understand what happened. You can't just walk away from this. Why? I found my voice rising, fueled by the simmering hurt. Why now, Ryan? You had your chance when you made your choice. My heart felt heavy, yet an ember of bravery sparked within me as I stood there, caught between the life I once thought I'd always have and the tantalizing unknown. Jack, sensing the rising tide of emotions, stepped slightly ahead. Emma doesn't owe you anything, Ryan. A protective fierceness lingered in his words, brokering a support I didn't know I needed. Especially not a chance to justify your mistakes. The two men exchanged glances, tension simmering in the air, an invisible struggle unfolding as I stood in the eye of the storm. Ryan's desperation morphed, his posture shifting between frustration and heartbreak. You're choosing to listen to a stranger over our history? Emma, what we had mattered. Yes, it mattered, I shot back, feeling the raw pain surfacing. But it's shattered now, and I can't keep piecing it together like broken glass. Each word sliced through the atmosphere, leaving an echo of my uncertainty and a glimmering spark of resolve. History doesn't have to end, Ryan pleaded, taking another step forward, a flash of desperation clouding his features. Yet with each step my heart recoiled, resisting the gravitational pull of what was familiar but painful. I can't, I said firmly. The thought of going back drowning beneath the swell of fresh potential I had felt just moments ago. I locked eyes with Jack, seeking the refracted light of hope amidst the chaos. At that moment, a flicker of camaraderie blossomed between us. Together we confronted the vulnerability of the past while standing resolute against its haunting grasp. There was something in Jack's eyes, an invisible line being drawn, a boundary surrounding me that felt both protective and empowering. For a fleeting second, I pondered those words again. Maybe, but suddenly Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper, slipping through the cracks in his determination. Emma, please don't forget me. I need you. The confession hung in the air, weaving a fragile thread of guilt into what I felt. I hesitated as memories whirled, fighting against the burgeoning decision beginning to take root. What if letting go meant losing everything? Even the good we had buried beneath the rubble of broken trust. My heart raced, a flickering heartbeat of doubt meeting Jack's unwavering calm. It was then that a flurry of chaos erupted from behind us, the unmistakable sound of glass shattering, followed by the collective gasps of the guests outside the church. The noise echoed like a final countdown, as if the walls were reminding us that time was running out, and something was about to break. Emma, Ryan started, the warning barely escaping his lips as he turned toward the noise, panic etched across his face. I could feel his distress ripple like a wave, cascading through our shared history and crashing into the present. But amidst the uncertainty and rush, I felt Jack's reassuring hand on my shoulder. We need to decide, he murmured, reminding me that clarity would not come without my conscious choice. Would I turn back to the man who had caused my undoing? Or would I take the momentous leap into whatever lay beyond with this newfound potential that Jack represented? The tempest within me escalated, swirling violently as I faced them both, my heart pounding with indecision, desperation colliding with newfound hope. In that very instant, an unexpected revelation coursed through me, breaking the surface of consciousness, a possible truth just waiting to be unveiled. As the chaos continued outside, I took a deep breath, ready to confront the path that lay ahead. Yet a pang of dread pulled at my core as the door swung open once more, revealing an uninvited figure stepping inside the corridor, someone who would change everything once again. Relief flooded me, shadowed by an impending sense of doom. The door rattled as I wrestled with the gravity of the moment before me, knowing too well that I was standing at the precipice of my future, with everything poised to change. The unexpected figure standing at the threshold was a girl, not much older than 18, her eyes wide with a blend of fear and determination. She wore a white dress that seemed to shimmer in the harsh fluorescent lights of the church, the fabric billowing around her like mist. The breath caught in my throat as she stepped forward, her trembling hands clutching something tightly against her chest. Emma, she called, her voice trembling but resolute. It's about Ryan. You have to listen to me. I blinked, momentarily forgetting the turbulence swirling between Ryan and Jack. My heart raced as I took in the urgency of her presence. Who was she? Why did she look like she was stepping out of a wild dream, or perhaps a nightmare? Who are you? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. Please just hear me out. She took another step closer, the vulnerability in her expression striking a stark contrast to the chaos around us. I'm Lily, and I've been looking for you. I don't have much time. Ryan's panicked gaze flicked from the girl to me, confusion etched on his face. What does she want with you, Emma? The fear in his tone only fueled my curiosity. I don't know, I stammered, glancing at Jack. His expression was hard to read, a mix of concern and protectiveness as he watched the unfolding drama. Ryan, Lily said, her voice firmer now, you need to stop making this about you. This is bigger than our mess. She paused, taking a deep breath as if steeling herself for the words she was about to deliver. It's about your mom. She's in the hospital. She's been asking for you, and you're here, arguing like it's all about this, about what went wrong between you and Emma. A heavy silence descended upon us, punctuated only by the distant sounds of chaos outside. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as the gravity of her words connected like a lightning strike. Ryan's expression shifted, the raw panic replaced by a dawning realization. He started, but no words came out. Jack placed a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently. "What do you want to do, Emma?" he asked softly, his voice a calm amidst the gathering storm. The air felt thick with unspoken thoughts, and I wrestled with a sudden wave of empathy that washed over me. Despite everything, Ryan's mother, whom I had always admired, was in distress. This was an unexpected twist in the narrative I had believed was entirely about betrayal and hurt. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, extending it toward me. "This is the address of the hospital. You need to go. She needs you both there." I could feel the weight of her words, the urgency draping over me like a heavy cloak. Every piece of this fractured story threatened to come crashing down if I stepped away. But could I walk away from this impending confrontation? My heart raced as I contemplated the complexity of choices before me. Ryan's voice drew me back. "Emma, I can't leave her alone. I need to go." There was desperation mingled with a hint of hope that maybe he could mend this broken relationship. Not just with me, but with the woman who had raised him. "Let's go then," I said, surprising even myself with my response. "But only if you come with us, Ryan. We have to do this together." Jack's expression was one of surprise, but there was understanding in his eyes as I claimed my choice. This was my moment to confront all aspects of my past, intertwining love, betrayal, and the unexpected kindness of a stranger. As we stepped out into the chaotic night, the shattering glass and murmurs of the crowd faded into a distant echo, overshadowed by something more prominent: the dawning reality of what lay ahead. Hope tightened around my chest, mingling with anxiety as we hastened to the hospital, navigating through a web of uncontrolled emotions. For each step felt like stepping into a new chapter, both terrifying and exhilarating. Lily walked alongside me, her unwavering presence grounding me in the storm that loomed ahead. "Thank you for listening," she said quietly. "I just knew you needed to know." As we reached the hospital entrance, reality nudged harder against my resolve. The air was thick with confusion, as all my past decisions collided with the uncertainty of the future. Would I find closure then? Was it truly possible that I could reshape everything, even if it meant facing the specter of my own heartache and perhaps burying it once and for all? As we stood at the hospital doors, I turned to look at Ryan and Jack, my heart caught in a cyclone of emotions. But before I could voice my thoughts, a hand reached for the door and flung it open, revealing a figure I never expected to see. My heart sank as the world around me came to a jagged halt. Standing there was someone from my pasta ghost long thought buried, whose presence threatened to unravel everything and reshape the definition of home in ways I had not imagined possible. The air in the hospital lobby was sterile and heavy with the unmistakable scent of antiseptic. A faint flicker of fluorescent lights cast an uneasy glow over the glossy floors as we stepped inside. But it wasn't the fluorescent hum or the chirps of distant machines that made my heart race. It was the figure standing just beyond the doors, a silhouette that bore the weight of my past. "Daniel," I breathed, realizing too late how much I had been keeping buried. The name felt like a shard of glass lodged in my throat, its presence both foreign and achingly familiar. His once boyish grin had matured into something more rugged, the passing years draping their shadows across his features. I could hardly reconcile that boy who used to weave laughter into my life with the stranger now standing in front of me. "Emma," he said softly, a tinge of surprise mingling with an air of inevitability. His voice stirred memories of late-night conversations, of dreams discussed beneath starlit skies. My heart clenched, a sudden pang of yearning running through me. "Why are you here?" I could hardly manage the words. What could he possibly want to say after all this time? My emotions were a tangled web, each strand pulling me in different directions, toward the warmth of our shared history and the bitter chill of what had transpired since. "Mom's been asking for you," he replied, his gaze steady despite the layers of unspoken history hanging between us. "I didn't know about Ryan until I got here. And then I heard you were coming too." I turned my head, looking to Ryan and Jack, both of whom were processing the scene unfolding before them. My heart ached not just for the man I once loved, but for the boy, no, the man who had grown and changed in my absence. The tension between Ryan and Daniel was palpable, like a storm brewing in the distance. "Should we go in?" Jack suggested with an anxious glance at the reception desk. His voice was reassuring, pulling me back slightly from the brink of confusion. "Emma, I need to talk to you," Daniel urged, stepping closer as if trying to shield me from the chaos swirling around us. His presence ignited memories I had long tried to repress. In private. I can't, not right now, I replied, feeling the weight of the hour pressing down on us. The promise of healing for Ryan's mother loomed, and I felt torn between the past I needed to address and the urgency of the present. Please, he pleaded, the rawness in his voice softening the edges of my hesitation. Without waiting for an answer, he led me a few steps away, breaking free from the noise of the hospital and creating a small sanctuary where only the two of us existed, momentarily estranged from the looming reality of family and confrontation. I thought I had buried these feelings, I whispered, struggling to make sense of the rush of emotions that were fiercely bubbling to the surface. You disappeared, Daniel. Everything fell apart and I thought... I know, he interrupted softly, shame coloring his tone. I was a coward. A stupid kid who believed he needed to distance himself. I didn't think I deserved your love, your loyalty. And I hated myself for not being the man you wanted me to be. Why now? My heart raced even faster. What changed? He paused, his jaw tightening as he clearly waged a battle with his emotions. Mom was diagnosed. She's been in and out of the hospital for months. I've been a wreck ever since, contemplating everything we lost because I was too scared to fight for us. And then I heard your name. I had to come. I didn't want to lose you again. I felt a part of me tearing apart, frayed edges of old wounds mingling with the joy of seeing him again. My mind grasped for answers, but my heart cried out in confusion. Where did this leave me? Daniel, I can't process this right now, I said, stepping back, my breath quickening. So much has changed. My words hung heavily in the air, filled with promises of a love that might have been but was overshadowed by the bitterness of reality. As I glanced back at Ryan and Jack, I saw the strain on Ryan's face, shadows of betrayal and longing flickering in his eyes. Behind him, Jack's quiet strength remained steadfast. Both were waiting for my next move. Emma, Daniel called, desperation coating his voice. Please. I turned away from him, needing to breathe, needing to escape the grip of that familiar ache before it pulled me under. The walls of the hospital seemed to close in, suffocating the thin thread of clarity I was grasping. I have to go, I said, resolute despite the storm within me. I pushed back toward Ryan and Jack, the past reluctantly fading into the background as my attention returned to the present, the hospital doors looming before us like a threshold to an uncertain fate. Suddenly, my phone buzzed to life in my pocket, pulling my focus away from what felt like a burgeoning crisis. I fished it out and unlocked the screen, my heart almost stopping as I read the message. It was from an unknown number, the text simple but chilling. I know where you are. It's time for the truth. Fear clawed at my insides, churning the tense atmosphere even further. The universe seemed to implode with every unresolved piece, the past, the present, and whatever lay ahead coalescing into something I couldn't yet fathom. Emma. Jack's voice broke through my daze, concern etched on his features. I clutched my phone tightly, panic mingling with intrigue building inside me. Questions flooded my mind like a storm, dark and twisted. With a final glance back at Daniel, who was searching my eyes with hope and despair tightly woven together, I grasped the reality that this was only the beginning of a long and tumultuous journey ahead, one that would reveal the depths of betrayal, the complexities of love, and the unexpected paths toward redemption. As I took a shaky breath, uncertainties danced around me, the shadows of what might come whispering on the edges of my mind. The sterile halls of the hospital felt like a labyrinth, each corner hiding whispers of hope and despair. I didn't know where to turn, toward the past that beckoned me through Daniel's eyes or the turbulent storm brewing in Ryan's gaze. My heart pounded against my ribcage as if it was trying to break free, but an increasing weight pressed down upon it, a festering tension thicker than the antiseptic air. Emma, do you need to talk about it? Jack asked, concern lacing his tone, grounding me momentarily in the present. His unwavering support had always been a beacon in my darkest times, and now it shone even through the pall that surrounded us. I just need a moment, I managed, taking a few hurried steps toward a bench in the quiet waiting area just beyond the hospital's hectic vibrancy, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos. Once seated, I dug my fingers into my temples to stave off the oncoming headache, feeling like an unwitting player in a game where the rules had changed overnight. I'll get you some water, Jack said softly, lingering for just a moment longer as if he wanted to reassure me that he would always be by my side. As he walked away, my trembling fingers couldn't help but return to my phone, the message from that unknown number still haunting me. Who could it have been? What truth were they referencing? My heart sank further as uncertainty gripped at my insides. Ryan's footsteps approached, and I looked up just as he reached my side. The tension in the air palpable. "That I saw him," he said, the words falling out in a rush. "Daniel, what were you two talking about?" "Ryan," I said, barely able to contain the tremor in my voice. "It was complicated. It's not what you think. He's here because of your mom, right?" His tone edged with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. "With everything that's happened, why does he need to speak with you now? He left, you can't just forget about that." "Neither can I forget about what he meant to me," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to retain control. "Ryan, it can't be just wiped away like it never happened, like he didn't matter." He cut me off, the hurt radiating from him stark and jarring. "But what about me? I matter too, Emma. We have a life, and this isn't just a reunion. I'm sitting here wondering how much of you still belongs to him." The shadows in his eyes spoke volumes. His vulnerability laid bare but tangled in a web of insecurity. I longed to reach for him, to soothe whatever anguish threatened to crack our fragile foundation. But the coldness of reality slipped between us like ice. In that moment, all I could think of was how easily the past had crept back in and how heavily it loomed over everything else. "I need to figure this out," I whispered, my heart bending under the weight of the truth that was tearing at the seams. "I can't lie to you or deny what I feel. But I need time. His voice shook, and I felt like I had pushed him away. "Even if all I wanted was clarity. Is that what this is about? Or are you still hoping for the past?" "I just need to breathe," I replied, the walls of my mind closing in around me. "Daniel's presence, it brings back feelings I thought were buried. I don't know how to navigate this with everything else going on." "I know how you feel," Ryan murmured, his pain palpable, "but I fear losing you, Emma." There was a note of desperation there, but the rawness of his honesty tugged at my heart. Before I could respond, Jack returned with water, his gentle presence a welcome distraction. "Everything okay?" he asked, eyeing both of us carefully. My heart warmed at the genuine concern etched across his feature. She was like the quiet eye of the storm, an anchor amidst the emotional maelstrom. "Yeah," I managed, voice cracking slightly. "Just processing that." I took the water from Jack, my hands brushing against his. And in that fleeting moment, I felt a flicker of warmth, something pure and untainted by the chaos of the past or the uncertainty of the present. He caught my eye, compassion reflecting in his gaze, and for a second, it felt as though the world outside had faded into nothingness. "Tell me you'll be okay," he said softly. "I will," I lied, but the promise felt like ash on my tongue. Just then, a loud clang echoed from the emergency room, disrupting our fragile moment. The sudden noise sent a wave of tension through the air. Within moments, a flurry of medical staff rushed past us, and my heart skipped. The urgency was palpable, a reminder of my present reality colliding with the chaos of my emotions. "Oh no, not now." I couldn't handle any more upheaval as I stood. The ground beneath me felt shaky, much like the state of my heart. "I'll be in the restroom," I mumbled, hurrying away before they could see the turmoil I was conjuring inside. The restroom was small, the fluorescent lights as harsh as the reality I was now trapped in. I splashed cold water on my face, seeking clarity. But all I could think of were the unresolved threads of my life, the past tugging at me, and the present slowly unraveling. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the doorway. "Emma?" Daniel's voice was tentative, yet heavy with urgency as he stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind him. "We need to talk. Something's happened." The mere weight of those words squeezed the air from my lungs, and I braced myself for a new chapter of turmoil. My pulse raced as I prepared to face whatever awaited me. Would I uncover the truth that could shatter the fragments of my world? Or would the collision of past and present leave me utterly lost? The bathroom felt like a cage, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and lingering despair. I pressed my back against the cool tiles, swallowing hard as Daniel stepped closer, the tension between us sharp enough to cut. His eyes were dark, filled with a weight that echoed the turmoil raging within me. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound composed, though my voice wavered. "You said we needed to talk, that I didn't come here to dredge up the past," he began, his tone hushed yet urgent. There's something you need to know. It's about your mom." A chill crept down my spine, and fear gripped me. "My mom? What do you mean?" She's okay," he interjected quickly. "But she needs you. She's been asking for you. It's serious, Emma." The thought of my mom in distress sent a rush of adrenaline through me. Her cancer hadn't been in remission long enough for me to feel comfortably. No, I had almost convinced myself that we were past the worst. What do you mean serious? I'm not sure how to say this. He started shifting as if the very words physically pained him. She's been refusing treatment. I know she was doing so well, but lately she just seems so lost, and I think it's because of everything that happened with us. I couldn't breathe. The world around me faded as I tried to process his words. Emotions swirled: anger, betrayal, frustration, but crystallizing beneath was an unmistakable thread of fear. The very thought of losing her sent anguish crashing over me. What do you mean she's refusing treatment? Why would she do that? Daniel's eyes welled with sadness, and I felt my heart break for both of us. I think she feels defeated, Emma, that maybe the battle was too much. She's scared. Maybe she doesn't want to see you suffer through it. I think you need to talk to her. Her will isn't strong enough right now. The reality hit me like a freight train. She had always been my warrior, the one to fight fiercely for every breath, and now here I was losing her spirit. I need to go to her, I whispered, feeling the ground shift beneath my feet as I fought against panic clawing at my chest. It'll take you. But Emma, you need to be honest with her. She's sensing your turmoil. You need to tell her if you want her to fight. And what about you? The question slipped out before I could stop it, my heart aching at the thought of dragging him back into the tempest. I'll be there. I need to be, he said earnestly. But we need to deal with this together. Before I could respond, the bathroom door swung open and a nurse entered. Her demeanor was calm, but concern flitted across her face. I'm sorry, but you can't be in here together. There's a waiting area for family, she reminded us gently. Daniel looked at me, his eyes a mixture of determination and sorrow, as if both of us were standing on the precipice of an unfathomable decision. I nodded, unwilling to linger in the weight of what had just been revealed. Oh, and Emma? The nurse's voice snagged my attention as I began to turn away. Your mom has asked for you in room 308. It's urgent. I swallowed, my heart racing, the world narrowing down to that single point. Everything else faded as I realized that I had to gather my courage for a different confrontation, the one with my mom. She would want to know everything, my feelings, my struggles, and the pull I felt between two worlds. Let's go, I said to Daniel, the strength in my voice surprising even me. We stepped out of the bathroom together, but the hallway seemed endless, echoing our shared silence as we approached the room. I could hear her voice rising and falling, an orchestra of emotion that both moved me and terrified me. Daniel squeezed my hand lightly before stepping aside. The comfort of his presence dampened by the reality of my choice. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. The act of entering that room felt monumental, a moment set apart from all others. Inside, my mom sat up in bed, pale but somehow radiant in her fragility. Her gaze met mine, and her eyes, so familiar, now mirrored a deep ache I had never encountered before. Emma, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You came. Mom, I breathed, and in that instant all my fears collided with the undeniable love that connected us. I need to talk to you. Before I could speak, my mom reached out, grabbing my hand with surprising strength. You need to promise me something, she said, her voice shaking. You need to promise me you won't let your past consume you. I want you to live. A knot formed in my throat. Her words bore the weight of desperation, perhaps the deepest gift of love she could offer. I tried to respond, but in that moment, the door creaked open again, and a stranger stepped in, a man I had never seen before. His face etched with urgency. Excuse me, are you Emma? He called, his eyes sweeping over my mom before locking onto mine. I felt my heart race once more, my stomach twisting as a sense of dread filled the air. Yes? I replied, unsure of what to expect. I have information about Daniel, he said breathlessly, his voice taut with gravity. You need to hear this. It's important. You're not going to believe what I've just uncovered. Everything in that moment shifted, and as the stranger stepped forward, the entire tapestry of my world threatened to unravel once more, leaving me teetering on the edge of hope and despair. The room felt like it had closed in around me, the hushed sounds of medical machinery blending into a dissonant symphony of anxiety. I glanced at my mother, who wore a mask of calm in the midst of chaos, her grip on my hand a solid anchor against the tides of turmoil flooding in. But the urgency in the stranger's voice, punctuated by the hard lines of his face, snapped my attention away. Daniel? I asked, breath catching in my throat. Fear scraped at my insides. What's happened to him? The man stepped closer, his expression grave yet softened by a hint of empathy. I don't think he's in immediate danger. But you need to know things are more complex than they seem. Complex? What does that even mean? My voice trembled as I struggled to process the storm brewing outside the haven of my mother's hospital room. There's something you don't know about his family, he continued, glancing at my mom with a fleeting expression of compassion. And it might explain why he hasn't been entirely honest with you. I wish I could say more, but this isn't the place your mother needs you. And I don't want to add to your distress. My heart sank at the implication. A sense of betrayal pricked at me, igniting the tension between my thoughts and feelings. What do you mean he hasn't been honest? What are you talking about? I demanded, desperation lacing my words. Listen, he said urgently, lowering his voice. I just got off the phone with someone close to Daniel. There are family issue secrets that might be linked to what he's feeling, to his intensity about your mother's condition. It's not just about you two anymore. I turned to my mother, desperate for a sign, a word of reassurance. Her eyes, normally so bright, reflected a flicker of worry, a reminder that her light was fading. Mom, Emma, honey, focus on me, she interrupted softly, but with conviction, her hand tightening around mine. We will deal with this as it comes. Your heart matters and so does Daniel's. But you need to take care of yourself first. The stranger's gaze darted between us, the tension thickening the air like fog. Read this, he said, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket and placing it into my trembling fingers. When you're ready, look into it. I swear it's important. It might change everything. No, I protested, my voice rising. What do you mean? What does it have to do with Daniel? Just trust me, he insisted, his resolve imploring. Find him, Emma. Talk to him. He's not the only one who needs saving. The stranger stepped back, as if sensing the weight of the moment. My heart raced as I opened the paper, but my mother's gentle squeeze broke through the tornado in my mind. Emma, she whispered, her voice wavering slightly. We can figure this out together. The clarity in her eyes faded momentarily, shadowed by exhaustion, and something instinctive stirred within me, a protective instinct that urged me to shield her from the turmoil unfolding. I folded the paper quickly, tucking it away as I focused back on her. I'm here, Mom. Always. My mother smiled weakly, but there was a flickering shadow in her expression. You can't take on everything, my love. Promise me you'll only carry what you can bear. I promise. Just let's talk, I said, desperate to redirect my mind. But as we began to converse, reality tightened its grip. The ideas of my mother's fear, of Daniel's secret life, and now this mysterious man weighed on me like stones in my pockets, pulling me deeper underwater until I barely felt the light above. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, our conversation a balm yet also stirring fresh unease. We spoke of memories and laughter through tears, but each shared smile was like sunrays piercing the thick clouds of uncertainty, glimmers of hope amidst the darkness. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the hallway outside, bursting the delicate bubble of our private world. Voices escalated, and before I could turn my head, the door flew open. A nurse rushed in, her face pale and frantic. We need assistance in room 310. There's been an emergency, she shouted, urgency electrifying her words, and my heart clenched painfully at the implications. In that pulsating moment, I glanced at my mother, and something shifted in her gaze, an understanding that cut deep. Emma, she began. But the urgency suddenly spiraled into a white noise I couldn't drown out. I'll be right back, I whispered, squeezing her hand gently. I hesitated, but before I could register how heavy the weight of my promise felt, I rushed out into the bustling hallway. What lay ahead was a frantic blur of a medical team rushing past, the machinery humming like a swarm around them. My senses heightened as I caught fleeting glimpses of familiar faces in the hall, the overlapping stories of hardship intermingling in the sterile environment crashed against the walls of my mind. And then, I caught sight of Daniel at the far end, his expression a mix of panic and despair, and everything else fell away. It wasn't just his family's secrets that hovered between us. It was fear, a shared fear for the uncertain future. I felt a rush of adrenaline spurring me forward as I approached. Daniel turned sharply, his eyes wide and dark, trapped between something profound and terrifying. Emma, he started, words escaping him, and as he reached out, a commotion erupted behind me. I I shouted instinctively, my heart leaping into my throat as everything crashed back to reality. The weight of my promise to my mother crashed into me all at once, and before I knew it, I was torn between the safety I felt with Daniel and the crumbling world I needed to protect. Stay with me, I demanded, yet a distant part of me knew the abyss was pulling at both of us, threatening to leave us in complete darkness. And then it happened. A moment froze in time as another figure stepped into view. A woman with a familiar face, her expression carved from the icy depths of fear. "I'm here to see Daniel," she breathed, voice shaking. My breath caught. Everything and everyone I had fought for twisted within the cruel irony of that unknown connection, and the world felt as if it were slipping out of control, revealing a truth I wasn't prepared to confront. The weight of the woman's words crashed over me like a wave, echoing in the deep hollows of my heart. She stood there, a tapestry of raw emotion woven across her face, and her eyes held a depth that sent chills dancing down my spine. How did she know Daniel? Who was she to step into this already tangled web just when I thought I had a grip? "Mom," Daniel choked out, his voice wavering on the edge of something more profound than surprise. The reality of the moment twisted painfully in my chest. She stammered, biting her lip. The sight of her uncertainty was like a spark igniting the dry brush of anxiety that had collected between us. "I just had to find you," she managed, stepping closer, her urgency palpable. "You don't understand. Get away from him." I shot back, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and rage. The frantic tension around us surged even more as the medical staff bustled about behind her, their focused voices blending together in a chaotic symphony. The world around me faded to a blurry backdrop, the focus narrowing onto this woman who suddenly claimed stake in Daniel's life. "Emma, wait," Daniel interjected, his brow furrowing as he reached out towards me, desperation lacing his tone. "This is my mom. She's here to help." I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat as a wave of disbelief crashed over me. My pulse quickened, a cohesive throbbing in my ears. Just when I thought I was grasping the contours of our shared pain, a new reality shattered my sense of control. "Help? You mean complicate things further? Please, let's talk," his mother insisted, her voice cracking under the pressure of emotions hanging in the air, vivid and frayed. "There are things you don't know, things that have kept us apart." "I didn't want it to be like this, your family," I whispered, the flutter of panic in my chest paired with the sharpness of betrayal. "Everything Daniel has been going through, all of this." Daniel grasped my elbow gently, his touch grounding amid the raw chaos around us. "Emma, let's just hear her out," he urged, but uncertainty flickered in his own eyes. I looked between them, my heart aching. A small part of me saw the similarity in their features, a mirror reflecting hurt, confusion, and a shared history I had never been privy to. A sickening twist of jealousy and anger swirled in my gut. "Fine," I said, my voice taut as I fought to keep my composure. "But listen here. Whatever it is, you better be ready to explain, because I won't let him suffer again." Daniel's mom closed her eyes for a fleeting moment, visibly pained by my words, yet determination flickered in her gaze as she nodded slowly. "Promise." With shaky breaths and the weight of expectant eyes around us, we found a quiet corner near the window of the hallway, away from the rushing nurses and the flashing lights of chaos. The sterile smell of antiseptics twisted with the sharp scent of fear, hanging heavy in the air as we gathered, surrounded by the ghosts of gripping uncertainty. Now, hovering just outside this hushed circle of despair, I felt the fresh storm of my emotions crashing against the walls I had built up, threatening to tear apart my fragile facade. The tension was suffocating. "We didn't know how to approach you, Emma," she started, her voice quaking yet clear, as if she were testing the waters. "Daniel, he's always been a part of this family. The secrets and the pain, everything. We had to protect him from the truth, from being dragged into our mess." And she hesitated, collecting herself, eyes pleading. "But it's becoming too much. I had hoped I could find him before it was too late." "Too late?" I repeated, dread settling in my stomach like lead. "Find him for what?" Daniel stepped in. "Mom, no," she interrupted, urgency lacing her voice. "He deserves to know the truth, Emma. His past, there are things happening that I thought I could control, but I can't anymore." The emotion flooding her voice squeaked against the questions brewing inside of me. "Control what?" I pressed, my own fears bubbling like roiling waves beneath the surface. "Things that can tear us apart, that could tear You apart, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. There's something happening in our family, something dark that's been hidden for years. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the shadows of uncertainty tightening their grip around me. What does this have to do with Daniel? Everything. You may have crossed paths with something you shouldn't have, she insisted, and a gasp tore from my throat as I began to comprehend the weight of her words. Denial seeped through my veins, but beneath it all, something deep and cold streaked through my heart. You're telling me that his pain, his intensity, it's all rooted in this secret of yours? Why didn't he tell me? We thought it would protect you both, she said, anguish lining her features. We thought keeping you away from it would save you from the hell it brings. Silence cloaked us in that moment, a heavy shroud woven with fear and loss, every breath weaved through with threads of countless heartbreaks. I felt lost amid the torrent of reality. The unknown and unsaid hung in the air, ready to seize everything, change everything. The stranger's voice echoed like a haunting refrain in my mind as I pieced together this shattered puzzle, desperately clutching onto hope. But a sudden alarm rang out, a shrill siren resonating as it pierced through our fragile moment of understanding. The commotion flared back into the hallway, a whirlwind of urgency swarming us. Room 310. Someone shouted, panic riding on their voices. My heart plummeted as I glanced at Daniel. Emma, I need you to listen to me, he said, apprehension shadowing his features. Whatever's about to happen, you have to promise me, you have to trust me. Trust you? I echoed, fear swelling inside me, the foundations of our world cracking with the weight of everything unveiled. Please, he said vehemently. If we're going to face this, we have to do it together. But as the nurse swept past us, attention drawn towards the burst of chaos, I felt the uncertainty release its icy grip. The world was spiraling around me, and with it, the irrevocability of the journey I had to face. In that moment our eyes locked and I realized something crucial hung in the balance, a choice buried underneath all the lies and secrets. I hadn't anticipated the truth. I just wanted to hold on to Daniel, yet the darkness loomed closer, and I was afraid of what choice lay ahead. And just before I found the words, our gaze broke as everything crashed around us, uncertainty ensnaring us as Daniel's mother stepped back, whispering an apology before vanishing into the rushing stream of chaos. Now I stood at the precipice, desperately clutching onto what remained, knowing I faced not just the unknown but everything that came with its weight of tears yet unshed, the burden of love amidst layers of betrayal. How could I fight an unseen foe that had already tangled us in its wicked embrace? The echo of that unspoken promise lingered, but as the light dimmed below the horizon, I realized we were about to plunge into darkness, hand in hand, unaware of the true depth of our trials. Standing in the hospital hallway, my heart felt like a drum echoing in the silence, heavy with uncertainty about the journey ahead. All the years of pain and longing wrapped around me like a shroud, stifling any hope that had begun to flicker in what felt like an eternity ago. Daniel stood close, his eyes clouded with both fear and determination. While the chaos of the hospital melted into the background, I could see confusion battling in his expression, a reflection of my own turmoil mirrored in his. Emma, he whispered, we don't have to do this alone. We can face whatever is out there together. The sincerity in his voice sent a jolt through me, reminding me that despite everything, amidst the turmoil of our lives, there was the tiniest thread of a shared bond that pulled us closer. You even know what you're asking of me? I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, fraught with doubt as I grappled with the disorientation of the moment. You don't know what darkness I carry. I'm still trying to figure out my own heart. Neither do you know what's inside of me, he countered softly, his fingertips brushing against mine. The unexpected warmth was like an anchoring force. Let's figure it out. Together. With that, I caught a glimpse of the ambiguous past we shared, intertwined with the uncertainty of our individual futures. A longing bubbled to the surface, softening the sharpness of fear. For a fleeting moment, I envisioned a different life, a life where we might face barriers and storms side by side, perhaps unearthing the buried ache of our shared longing. But before I could become lost in the allure of that future, panic swirled back as I remembered my mother's frail voice, her plea for courage, and the urgency weaving through the hospital walls. I turned abruptly, searching for answers, knowing that time was slipping away. Where did his mom go? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. Did she leave us to face this alone? The anxiety coursed through me and the tightness in my chest grew, each breath becoming more laborious, choked with unanswered questions. Daniel glanced back into the surging stream of frantic medical staff. An anxious relative's it felt like a lifeline being severed. She needs to circle back. If she's right about protecting us, then the truth might come next. Next? I echoed, disbelief mixing with the storm in my heart. What if the truth destroys everything we've built, Daniel? What if it leaves pieces of us so shattered that we can't put them back together? It's about facing fears, he insisted, his gaze locking with mine, intensity spiraling within his eyes. What is your fear? The past or the future? I opened my mouth to respond, but the question hit a little too close to home. Fear was an ugly beast that clouded judgment, whispering lies that entangled me with pain. I swallowed hard, fighting against the weight of it all, ready to face the truth, however daunting it seemed. I had spun a fragile web of relationships and hurt, but maybe facing those shadows head-on was the only path toward healing. Just then, a nurse hurried past, her eyes darting with an urgency that felt tangible. You need to wait in the waiting area, pay attention to the announcements, she shouted, voice rising above the clamor. We're doing everything we can. The words pressed down on me, heavy with finality, a somber reminder that in this world of uncertainty, minutes felt fleeting. I exchanged a glance with Daniel, the shared anxiety propelling us into action. We need to find your mom, I said, urgency coiling in my gut. He nodded, the unspoken connection drawing us toward the din that enveloped the hospital, a sickly orchestra of chaos and hope blending into a single melody. We moved through the swirling bodies, broken faces, anxious whispers, and stifled sobs, a sea of shared pain, amplifying the reality that none of us were truly alone in this struggle against fate. Each footstep felt heavier, weighed down by the stakes that escalated with each passing second. Then, as if summoned by fate, Daniel's mom appeared at the end of the hall, looking even more strained than before. My heart sank at the sight of her as she took hesitant steps toward us, a glimmer of relief melding with palpable dread hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Where were you? Daniel called, his voice colored with urgency, a blend of concern for his mother and fear for the emptiness she had left behind. I'm sorry, she said, pulling Daniel into a tight hug. The warmth shared a fragile shield against the world around us. I needed to take a moment to breathe. We have to talk about everything now. Everything felt electric, tension crackling between us, as I caught snippets of conversation swirling around like frantic butterflies. It's ongoing. We need to figure this out before it's too late. Wait, I interjected, breaking into the escalating conversation. What's happening? What do we need to know? Daniel's mother turned to me, her face worn and tear-streaked, yet infused with a strength that hid beneath the exhaustion that clung to her. You need to understand the legacy we carry. Everything that happened before Daniel and I were connected has a bearing in him. On you, she said, breath rattled with unpredictability of urgency. The life choices we made have consequences that seeped into our lives. Consequences? I echoed, feeling the gravity of the moment settle in. What are you talking about? My family has been entangled with a darker legacy, decisions that have now come back to haunt us. I couldn't face it, didn't want to face it, and as a result, we lost too much. Her words laced through the air, reverberating in my mind. Daniel glanced at her, pain steeped in his expression. Is this about what was taken? Was it linked to Mom? Yes. But it's more complicated than that, she admitted, her voice wavering. You see, a part of my family has suffered in ways you can't yet understand, mistakes that rippled through generations. They led to betrayals, to lost betrayals, I murmured, feeling the term sting in the air. So we're talking about secrets that have bled into everything? Everything, she affirmed. Things have been hidden from both of you to protect you from facing the truth of our history. Only that protection failed. With each word, the weight of everything I thought I knew crumbled around me like fragile paper, leaving me unsteady in the face of a battle I hadn't anticipated. But below the chaos of emotions raged another truth, the spark of resilience igniting within, ready for whatever lay on the horizon. I thought I could shield you from the shadows of our past, she continued, voice strained yet resolute. But now we need to face it. Together. As she spoke, I felt a current of understanding flow between us, a bridge soaring over the chasm built by secrecy. The named fears began to morph into something clearer, cutting through the haze of disappointment and struggles. Maybe facing this truth is the only way to gather the pieces, I said, glancing between them, locking eyes with Daniel's unspoken promise passing between us. "Are you willing to stand with me?" Daniel asked, earnest intensity flooding his eyes, revealing vulnerability beneath the facade he had carried for so long. "I will," I replied, my heart racing with the weight of choices once more swirling within me. "But first we must find a way to get through this, all of it." As we stood together in that crowded hallway, our hearts intertwined through a tapestry woven with pain and hope, I felt something shift within me. The tightness that anchored my soul began to loosen, light filtering into the dark corners once shadowed by fear. "Together we can face anything," I declared as Daniel gripped my hand tighter, and in that moment, I felt the past release its hold on me like a gentle breath. We were bound by love, strengthened by honesty, and fortified by the promise that whatever lay ahead, we would face it united, the truth at our backs, prepared to move forward into the unknown. We turned to step into a new chapter, into the promise of healing, as the chaos faded behind us and the light ahead beckoned, illuminating the path to our futures. And in that moment, beneath the weight of everything that had brought us to this point, I realized that hope was not the absence of fear, but rather the courage to move forward despite it. "Hey, race to new beginnings," I whispered, sharing a glance with Daniel that ignited the spark of new possibilities. And for the very first time in a long while, I believed that tomorrow could cradle a bright dawn.